Hi everyone, this is Lauren coming at you from the Break Zone with another deck tech video. This one going over the Water Earth Monster deck that was piloted by Samsonite Prime in order to make the top 31 cut for the North America Championship. So the name of the deck is Scanlan Hilltop, and it looks like it was inspired by Jason Wivert, who finished first the day before that the whole event started for the North American Championship, where he won out at the Dark Crystal Cup with a deck that was actually a Lightning Earth triple flanded deck, which was quite surprising. So the triple flanded strategy is very good against an aggressive meta. So we're talking about like turbo discard. It looks like Sam put a deck together that was ready to take on. That was a bit of a mid-range deck that's able to take on a lot of aggressive decks or decks that rely on maybe one or two larger forwards, and is definitely very good against turbo discard. So let's take a look at some of the cards that got him all the way there. Okay, starting off with Raubahn. That's a forward that's a bit of a removal spell, a removal card if you think about it that way. There's not going to be a lot of times when you'll be able to save him, because I actually don't think you have any way to save him, as none of your cards will be able to make him large enough to survive the 9,000 damage. So think of Raubahn as a way to maybe take out a Nidhogg or anything like that. But there's a lot of removal in this deck, and we're going to go over some of it right now with Cecil. So you put Cecil in combination with Cecilia, and you'll be able to deal a combined 12,000 damage, which should take out just about any forward your opponent might have. And even on its own, Cecil would be able to would allow you to take damage and take out, let's say, a Thaumaturge or an Argas. So as I mentioned, this deck is definitely well positioned to take on turbo discard. And let's go over some next card with Gao. You'll be able to, well, not only are you running a decent amount of monsters, we're talking about 14. You have no summons, but instead you supplemented your forwards with some monsters, and some monsters are forwards as well. We're talking about Gigas and Sahagin and Green Dragon. And so in that way, Gao can get quite large and be able to bring back onto the field without paying any extra cost of monster from your break zone, depending on the situation that might occur, whether you want like Cleon, Tomberries, Green Dragon, or Flanded. You definitely have a lot of options. Gao is a heck of a toolkit. Next up, we've got Psychom Enforcer, who's really great against, well, those monster-based decks. Let's say your opponent puts out a Jesper. Psychom Enforcer will be able to bring you back to push you back in the game. Okay, so you're playing Water. There's a chance you're playing Layla Vikings. In this case, you're playing 2 Laylas, 3 Vikings, because you really want that Viking, and the Layla is not as useful without it. And there it goes, the Viking that goes along with the Layla. Next up, we've got Wall. You're playing Earth. You are very likely to play Wallace, who has all those options. Keep in mind, the Brave option is quite nice to slap onto your Gigas, so that you're able to attack and not have to worry about it being dull for the following turn. So you also have Moe Buddy to help you with the Gigas, and I'll go over that card a little bit later. But Wall definitely has a lot of options, and if you're able to save up your hand against turbo discard and make the Thaumaturges 1,000 power instead of 5,000 power on your turn, you go into your attack phase, deal 3,000 damage to a dull forward. You'll be able to take out some Thaumaturges that way. Next up, we've got Relm, who is an amazing expert, or even just a straightforward. The fact that she replaces herself by, I mean, you have so many monsters, it's very unlikely that you hit a turn where you play Relm, whether you get an EX burst of Relm or you actually play her out and you don't have a monster off of, you don't reveal a monster off of the top 5 cards of your deck. That's very unlikely. And keep in mind that her ability is also quite good, whether you want to turn something like, let's say, a Cleon into a forward, or something like you run out of backups to be able to use, of CP, in order to turn a forward into a monster into a forward. You'll be able to use her ability. Or if you want to choose an opposing monster, turn it into a forward and use some kind of removal on it, you have all those options available to you. 2 cost 5,000 power. She's well, she doesn't take a card out of your opponent's hand like Thaumaturge, but she's able to get you one card into your hand for the most part. Okay, and last but not least, we have one Kefka with all those monsters and some smaller forwards, whether you want to talk about Layla and Viking, for example. You'll be able to get removal as well by sacrificing a couple of your forwards and monsters. So let's say you have maybe like a spare Flandin or something like that, then you might be able to turn it into a Kefka. Alright, let's go over some of the monsters now. Starting off with Gigas, as I mentioned, Gigas does have a bit of a drawback where he does not activate on your next active phase if you use it to attack. He's going to be dull, and it's going to be stuck that way for a turn. But if you have a combination of Wall and Moe Buddy, so now you'll be able to attack with Gigas as a 4-drop 9k, which is a pretty big deal because on the swing back, not only are you preventing opponents from doing things like playing a Genesis on your forward, because once they go into the attack phase, the prep attack phase, they won't be able to play out any more regular characters. They'll still be able to play out summons, obviously. So let's say they have a Glacial Bolas or they have Mateus, we're talking about Turbo Discard. Then yes, they would still be able to take care of Gigas, but there's only so many of those while they do have a decent amount of dull and freeze effects, or let's say Sid Alstein. Gigas will not be a target for Sid Alstein during main phase 1 unless you really leave him out there hanging to dry. You might as well just wait until your opponent declares an attacker, and then use the ability for Gigas to turn to a forward so that you may declare him as a blocker. All right. Next up we have Sahagin. So we haven't seen much of this guy in a while, but hey, you know what? He was amazing on stream. So if you didn't get the chance to do so, please check out the stream where the video that I'm going to link down below, where Sam was able to showcase Sahagin. That little monster was just amazing. Sahagin and Flandins can really tighten the screws on your opponent. Next up with Tomberries, keep in mind that is a unique monster. You cannot have more than one Tomberries on the field at a time. That's most monsters are not unique, but Tomberries is one of the few. But definitely a good way to push damage. So let's say you have Tomberries and you have Sahagin. So the turn you put Tomberries down, you'll be able to put your opponent in an uncomfortable situation where it's like, well, he already used his Tomberries, enter the field ability on my forward. Do I want to do anything about it? Let's say do some Flandins on top of that. So now they have to pay CP in order to be able to block. And then after that, you try to swing it with the Sahagin when you can still sacrifice the Tomberries. And past that turn, you will always have Tomberries available if you haven't broken them. Whether you have CP available to you or not, you'll be able to reduce the power of one forward by 2,000. Or if you were able to spend 1 water CP, you'll be able to reduce it by 4. Next up, we have Cleon. So you're playing no summons, so you don't really mind putting Cleon out there. A lot of decks rely on summons in order to, as combat tricks. So Cleon is definitely going to be able to save you from those, and you're also able to use Cleon and turn it into a forward with Relm. And if Cleon is broken or is put from the field into the break zone, so even if it's broken from combat, for example, you'll be able to draw a card. So that's actually a very potent ability, and it's one of the options available to you. Okay, next up we got Green Dragon, a bit of a generic monster there, but hey, 2-drop 7k, it's not too bad as long as you have backups to be able to activate it. And last but not least for the monsters, there's a bit of a showcase here, the centerpiece, Flandin. So Flandin is pretty interesting as people went through Opus 5 and looked at it. It's like, oh hey, you could add it to the tax deck with some of the cards from Opus 4, where it was an ice where people had to pay in order to prevent their forwards from doling, or when their forwards enter the field, they would have to pay 1 or dole them, things like that. And it didn't turn out so well. Like, nobody was able to put together a very good tax deck, but Jason Wivard as well as Samsonite Prime were able to put it together with Flandin. So if somebody doesn't play a lot of backups, so let's say Turbo Discard for example, then Flandin can become a very big deal. And as this deck is a bit of a mid-range deck, when your opponent is trying to maximize the efficiency of their backup use, Flanded can really mess with their math, their calculations in order to get everything going. And you'll be able to kind of swing in, get a couple points of damage here and there, or prevent people from attacking into you if you have Flanded in play. As well, the tax has to be one of any element. But keep in mind that discarding a card is provides you with 2 CP, but it doesn't carry over. So if you don't have backups to pay for the Flanded tax, then you're gonna have to start discarding cards in order to do so. And if you're saving up all your CP in order to kind of save yourself from having to go into an inefficient game state against Flanded, then you're actually playing right to their hands. So Flanded is very interesting, and I do hope to see more of it in the future. Alright, so next up we've got backups. Starting off with Philia. So this card has been showcased quite a bit. If you've watched the Euro Championships also, you've seen a lot of Philia out there. This deck's a little bit of a different take. It's not the what was it? Mono water or wind water Philia decks that you've seen around, but perhaps I'll do a video on those in the future. But either way, Philia is able to take care of most of, let's say, an opponent's Genesis or a lot of their other smaller forwards. But keep in mind that if you combine Philia along with Cecil, that's a combined 12,000 points of damage, which should take out just about any forward. You don't have too many EX bursts in this deck. You do have 1 Moe Web and 3 Relms, but that's not really what you're counting on it for. So if you're ever in a situation where you're using your Philia and hoping for an extra EX burst to save you, that's a possibility, but it's a very small one. Okay. Next up we got Shantoto, great card all around, still here. Fisher, so you are playing monsters, including so this one will be able to get you just about any of them except for Gigas and put it straight onto the field. So if your opponent is having a hard time dealing with one of your monsters and was somehow able to get rid of them, Fisher's going to bring it right back, and on a 2 CP backup, that's just amazing. Okay, 1 off Moe Web, great card, EX Burst, and able to dig right through your deck. As I mentioned, you do have some break zone recursion, being able to search things out into your break zone from, let's say, the Fisher, Philia, as well as the Gal. So you don't mind discarding some cards too much to put into your break zone and fetching them back later. Okay. Gladiator, being able to get some of your standard units. So that is Psycom Enforcer and Vikings. Okay. Summoner. So as I mentioned before, a lot of people rely on summons for combat tricks, and Summoner is going to be able to cancel a lot of them, whether it's a 2 CP Earth Hecaton Kier to Glacial Bolas to Mateus. Summoner is able to do a lot of that. Just keep in mind it does have a restriction of cost 3 or less, so that 5 CP Titan is not going to be stopped by this card. Okay. Next up we've got Moe Buddy, who's well, really good with Gigas, but any other forward that can use it with. So let's say you're stonewalling your opponent with a large Gal. Moe Buddy is going to allow you to push Gal to attack with Gal, as well as keep him as a blocker. Okay. Minor Engine is here as 2 of, and the legendary Minor, you could think about it that way. Well, it's not really. It's completely different, but Philia is quite flexible in terms of being able to return characters. So you're also able to get back monsters with Philia, or if you really need to put out a forward first turn that's an even cost, you could drop 3 cards, play Philia, and get 2 back into your hand. Okay. And last but not least, we got Max Woman. So anybody going too much into that aggressive stance or trying to be a little too aggressive against you, Max Woman is going to punish them quite well, as most aggressive decks will play forwards of cost of 4 or less, and they will most likely be dull. So hopefully you like this deck. I do hope to see new iterations of it, as Opus 7 is the pre-release should kick off tomorrow. Well, actually in 2 days. and hopefully people will have fun. I do want to see more Flanders in the future. Sahagin and Flanders are just really fun, interesting cards to see. So hopefully you like what we do, and you want to support us. Well, you don't have to really throw money at us or anything like that, but we would love a subscribe, comments, anything like that. If you have any decks that you want us to feature or any questions, feel free to add them down below. This deck actually went through and went ahead to showcase it because there was a previous subscriber, commenter, that actually requested that I discuss a Flanded deck. So I decided to showcase this one as the other one was not readily available to me. I don't think I had the deck list available to me offhand from Jason. He might have posted it. I think he posted it on the Facebook groups, but didn't really get the time to put it together. So hopefully you like it. Keep in mind that if you subscribe, or if you have been a subscriber, or if you do subscribe now or in the future, you'll be entered into all our future drawings. And as we are currently at about 740 subscribers, and we're aiming for 800 and upwards of 800, hopefully break 1,000 in the near future. We still have giveaways, so if you're a subscriber, when we hit 800 subscribers, we will be doing a random drawing to see who wants to get some free swag. So we still have the Cactuar sleeves. Yay! Well, some stuff from Magic people, just in case they ever watch this stream or this videos. So we've got Horizon Canopy from Iconic Masters. We've got Mox Opal from Dominaria. We have, well, this is not Magic, but I don't know if you want to call her a magical girl, but we've got Lightning. And ta-da-ta-da! Is it upside down? It's upside down. Okay. Shiva deck box from Toronto Crystal Cup. Signed by the producer of the game, Toru Kageyama. So the 800 subscribers, we'll be doing a random drawing. The person picked will have the choice between any of those prizes, of those to be given out to them. So please feel free to subscribe. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions, comments, or anything, feel free to put them down below. We'll try to address them. As I mentioned, this video was made specifically because people wanted to see Flanded showcase a little bit. And so don't forget to check out our sponsor, MagicDeckGames.com, where they sell singles for Final Fantasy, the trading card game, as well as I think it was Iconic Masters and Dominaria for Magic. So that's available out there, and they should have Opus 7 cards available in the very near future, as well as they have some, I think they just put out some accessories like the Tifa sleeves and stuff like that from Final Fantasy TCG, and they have a buy list that you can trade in cards for store credit. So if you're looking into trading in some of your old cards to get some of that Open 7 goodness, feel free to check out their buy and trade in and sell list, buy trade, whatever it's called. You know, that thing where you turn in your cards into other cards. Anyways, we'll catch you next time, and hopefully you do like what we do. And well, this weekend's gonna be Open 7 pre-release, so hopefully you go out there, you have some fun. Especially if you're on the East Coast, as the West Coast is having a little bit of a difficult time getting some of the product. And we'll catch you next time.